for our investor roundtable. Moderating this roundtable will be Scott Amyx, managing partner at Astor Perkins. And let me introduce the investor roundtable panelists. Ola Sars is the founder and CEO of Soundtrack Your Brand, the world's fastest growing music platform for B2B, which he co-founded together with Spotify back in 2014. Before Soundtrack, he was the co-founder and COO of Beats Music, acquired by Apple and transformed into Apple Music. Our next panelist is Jeff Ransdell, who is a founding partner and the managing director of Fuel Venture Capital, a $224 million venture fund with 23 startups in its portfolio, including PredaSAR, Soundtrack Your Brand, and Taxfyle. Ben Rifkin is the CEO and president of 1080 Capital, a family investment office and VC that invests in high-growth businesses. He's also a co-founder and board director of Accelerate a privately funded collaborative that develops consensus solutions for the unmanned mobility industry. Jeff Cruzy is an investment manager at Seraphim Capital, the oldest and most prolific space tech VC globally. And today's featured startup in the roundtable is Steelhead Composites, led by CEO Andrew Kors, who grew up in the company to a dominant global pressure vessel manufacturer. Steelhead is active in hydrogen storage for zero-emission applications and launch and propulsion solutions for aerospace and has over 120 customers worldwide. Steelhead has received numerous awards and accolades for advanced manufacturing. He holds an MS degree in economics from the University of California and is a CFA charter holder. A bit more about Steelhead. They have over 120 major customers in 26 countries. Their customers are the who's who of the new space race for launch and propulsion, such as SpaceX, Blue Origin, ULA, and many others. Their revenues have grown 300% year on year since 2019 and are expected to maintain that growth rate next year. They hold a strong patent portfolio that protects their proprietary design, engineering, manufacturing, and testing of their patented pressure vessel designs. They are the fastest in the industry for prototyping with fully digital manufacturing floor. They are aerospace quality systems and environmental management systems certified. Let's welcome Andrew Kors from Steelhead Composites.
The problem that we are addressing is that there's no good solution for propulsion to meet the cost needs that we see today. Because for the longest time, the aerospace industry was a highly premium product that had its own ecosystem, and the terrestrial market was its own ecosystem, and it still is. But with the proliferation of spacecraft and satellites, that there needed to be a stopgap, something that came in from the terrestrial market to solve the solution. And that's where we came in with our product, which is low cost, up to 1/50th, so 2% of some of the legacy players. We're still able to do that profitably. They're robust, they're lightweight. Now, the reason we can do that is because we are able to take the economies of scale for our terrestrial applications and apply them to the aerospace and the satellite market. At our facility, and as you can see some of the components behind us, we design, we engineer, we manufacture, and we certify products that go in virtually every industry. But of our greatest growth this year, it really is in launch and then in propellant. And we're starting to get into small sats as well. And the reason we can do this is because, again, the platform technology, borrowing from our hydraulic heritage, we have gone into these really two markets, which one is hydrogen and one is aerospace. And because of our success in rapidly prototyping and a fully digital shop floor, we claim over 120 customers, really the who's who of the leading edge of companies, everything from oil and gas to space to submarine. We hold 6 patents with 1 pending and 3 that are written that we will submit soon. We're in space and we're in the bottom of the ocean, everything in between, and we're able to have a nice margin because of our manufacturing process and our quick responses to customers. We're certified for the uses, and because of that, we're safe. And we're going to triple sales this year versus last year, and we're going to be entering next year with the expectation and the pipeline to triple again. So the team, this is the team to get it done. We do have over 100 years in pressure vessel and composite expertise. We have 23 employees, mostly engineers, all in one location, and we've got some fantastic advisors. With that, I thank you, and I look forward to the roundtable.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate it very much. Maybe, Andrew, if you could elaborate a little bit more on the total addressable market, how big is this market, and why you believe that steelhead composites will be the largest when it comes to market share within the high-pressure vessel space?
Oh, thank you. The market was large when we entered into it, but it was dominated by legacy suppliers that have been not had any incentive to really innovate on their propulsion because of this space heritage idea that you had to be in space for 20 years to be credible. And what that means is that was the same 20 years ago. So there hasn't been all that much innovation. So we're talking about really new market for propulsion, and that's incremental, and that really is a function of how many satellites are going to be launched and the successes of Blue Origin and Firefly and SpaceX, and how quickly we see this market growing. But it will be we're expecting it to be about a $300 million market just for propulsion by the end of this decade.
Sure, I have a question. Currently, who do you see as your largest competitor or your biggest barrier to entry in this market?
The biggest in the market is a Orbital ATK, which was purchased by Northrop Grumman a couple of years ago for $3.5 billion, and they're very credible, and they have a tremendously large market share. And the main reason we can compete with them is we're nimble, and these new private space companies appear to want something that can be done now. And the biggest barrier to entry is we don't have 20 years of space heritage, and neither do most of these new companies. And that's something that we as a NASA or whoever is out there needs to come to grips with, that space heritage is good to have, but it's not necessary if we want to really keep on innovating as quickly as we need to meet some of the goals and milestones that we as a nation and as a globe have.
Andrew, this is Jeff Ransdell. You made a comment. You had no idea it was going to be as hot as it is today. In your professional opinion, being at the helm, where do you see things going in the next 5-10 years in the space category?
That's a question we have to all struggle with. I mean, if you asked us a year ago, where do you see the world in a year? We'd be wrong. Where do I see things in 5-10 years? That's the successes of SpaceX and the amount of momentum that are happening in these companies that are popping up means that we are commoditizing space. And as part of that is, we'd like to be one of the major component suppliers for the commoditized space. And then that means we are not looking at selling products at the $16,000 toilet seat. We're looking at selling something that makes satellite propulsion accessible to a new startup company, and makes launch accessible to a greater number of companies that want to launch their vehicles into space.
Hey, Andrew, this is Ben Rifkin. To piggyback on Jeff's question, if sort of the future is opaque and the goal near term is to really commoditize kind of what you're doing and enable others to approach space, what do you see as milestones for the company, agnostic of the future, in the next kind of 12 to 24 months?
So for those products that do help enable space, we need to as a company, become more familiar with the requirements and the frequently changing requirements. Our customers come to us and they're learning as they go too. So our biggest goal or milestone would be to ensure that we're learning alongside of our customers of what they want and what is needed, and to know we're going to have some failures, but fail well, like what we're seeing. And that's really the major mind shift change that we've seen, is that the NASA of old was failures are totally unacceptable. So we need to design and engineer things to be 99.99999% safe. And private space companies are saying, okay, no, that's not. If we can get it 99% safe and it's not a manned aircraft, that's good enough, because we're going to start learning. We're going to learn which dials we can move, how we can get these rockets and these shuttles and these satellites maneuvering, but do it in a way that becomes a significantly less expensive and less arduous task than it's been in the past. Because for the longest time, cost was the barrier. And as cost comes down, there needs to be some more, just thoughts about how we can view risk in a way that is more similar than we do in terrestrial applications, in order to get the prices to a place where they're acceptable.
Andrew, I'm just curious. When you look at your business, is the majority of it going toward, the rocket, or are you, what is kind of the breakdown? If you mentioned satellites, you've mentioned rockets. I mean, can you break down the percentage of really where the business is going, or where it's at right now?
So in terms of, 80% of our aerospace business is in launch. But in terms of incoming inquiries, there are a handful of firms that want to each launch thousands of satellites. When you're launching thousands of satellites, that the traditional satellite manufacturing business of propulsion doesn't dovetail into those numbers. Where some of the legacy manufacturers, they manufacture by the dozens. So we have companies coming to us saying, okay, give us quantity breakpoints for satellite propulsion. And that's really the biggest potential market, and the area that we'd love to grow into. We'd like to become the de facto supplier to these companies that want to launch 3, 5, 7,000 satellites over the next 5 years.
Thank you.
I have another question, Andrew. In terms of your product development, I suspect being a component supplier, you could feel some margin squeeze. Do you have any strategy around going down the value chain for the various markets you're in?
We do feel some. I'm sure there will be some margin squeeze, and the margin squeeze that I think that we're going to see is, like I mentioned, we did a RFQ last week for 3,500 satellite systems for storing gas, and they want a breakpoint for that. Fortunately for us, that we do have a nice terrestrial business. We make similar vessels for high-end sport car suspension systems. So we've already felt that margin squeeze, and we've, through our production process, had efficiencies so that if we can compete and get a 45% margin on an automotive component, we can still demand a nice margin on an aerospace component and meet their timelines, and meet their needs, and meet their quality. So I guess that's the all-encompassing thesis that we have, is dual use is going to become incredibly important for this next generation of space. That that companies who are aerospace only are going to struggle to succeed because they can't get the economies of scale. So our success, I think, is contingent upon us having two tracks, one where we're serving the aerospace community and another where we're serving the marine and automotive community, so that we can get our products to a place where they can be manufactured at a cost that is reasonable and get us a margin that's acceptable.
All right, well, I want to thank this incredible panel. It's been incredible. So I really appreciate everyone's time.